There's one mechanic found in many video games that many speedrunners hate. That mechanic is luck. A-Tower is known as the single most effective individual level in the game from luck alone. Not only must the luck align, but the gameplay must be nearly flawless as well. Let's see how speedrunners have overcome A-Tower's brutal luck and difficult movement. Our first runner is G Jericho 91. G Jericho started with the propeller as the level is vertical, so flying through was a good idea. Throughout the level there are firebars and brown platforms that move back and forth, and G Jericho had a tough time getting through. He bumped and hesitated multiple times throughout the level, trying to make sure he wouldn't lose the propeller, but unfortunately he did. But thankfully it was near the boss door. G Jericho entered the boss door and defeated Kamek and ended with a 4:29 in-game time. The run definitely had a lot of time save left, as there were slowdowns at nearly every part, but it would have to do. Exactly 2 years later, runner Darkram 7 would get a 5:18, around 89 IGT better than the previous record. Ren flew through the level really well and didn't make too many mistakes. However, the boss fight was a different story. You see, at the start of this video I said that this is the most effective individual level in terms of luck, and the Kamek fight would be why. You have to hit Kamek 3 times total, but each time Kamek will randomly spawn up to 3 times before you can hit him. Darkram got a 1, 2, Kamek pattern, which was acceptable, but lost a good amount of time. It would take 15 months for somebody to finally break the record when B-Man would get a 5:26. B-Man had beat Darkram by 80 in game time and entered the boss door 7 in game time better than Darkram, which meant that the time save mostly came from the level and not the boss fight. The main place B-Man saved time is by flying through the secret area with the door at the place where Darkram mistimed their flight. About 5 months later, the record would once again be obliterated, this time by Josh TGR, who would get a 5:35. How did he take so much time off the record? Well, you see, Josh TGR did the level so fast that he made an early cycle before the brown platforms closed in. This saved over 5 IGT over B-Man. The Kamek fight was a 2-2-1, so there was still a lot of time to save. 2 days later, DCA would tie this time. She entered the boss door at 5:64, while Josh entered the door at 5:58. How did DCA save so much time? DCA wall jumped more than Josh so fast that she made a much earlier cycle. The brown platforms were starting to open when DCA made it, but the platforms had almost closed when Josh made it. Unfortunately, DCA would get a 2-2-3 Kamek, which is why she only tied Josh. The level itself was almost optimal in DCA's record, which means from here on out, Kamek would be the main factor of runs. The level itself does have some improvements, but overall, Kamek was the main point now. On October 29, 2020, Yaka Tracker would get a 5:41. The level itself was slightly slower than DCA, but Kamek was a 2:11. Despite being the 6th record, there was still a ton of time to save because of the awful thing known as luck. About 4 months later, runner -112 would get a 5:46, beating Yaka by 5. The level itself was good. Entering the door at 5:65 at Kamek was a 1:11. A perfect Kamek at a good level. Was the IL finally good? No, because there's another part of Kamek RNG that I didn't mention yet that will become much more important with future records. Kamek might spawn up to 3 times after each time you hit him, but Kamek will also spawn randomly in the arena, which can make you lose a lot of time depending on where he spawns. Kamek spawned really far away from Minus all 3 times, which means there was still a lot of time to save. Minus realized this, so he came back to improve 9 months later. Minus would get a 5:66 store and a 1:11 Kamek. The spawns were much better this time, and that let him get a 5:50, an improvement of 4. Minus said that he was done, as he was 9 ahead of Yaka, who was 2nd, and that luck is absurd to get again. A-Tower finally had a solid record. And how long did the record stand? 5 days. Speedrunner Rube beat Miners with a 5:51. This run wasn't much different, just that Roop didn't take damage at the Kamek fight while Manos did. A couple of months later, runner Cats would also get a 551. In this run, Kamek was pretty far away from him for the first hit, but really close for the second and third, meaning 552 was possible if every Kamek hit was close. And so when Roop came back 2 months later, Kamek was indeed next to him on all 3 hits, and he got a 552. It seemed like this record would stay on top forever. The amount of grinding you would need to get a 553 would be insane. It was just unrealistic. Until Cats came back. Cats tried more than 10 hours on the level and got 234 paces to the boss door. Many of them being a 567, which was a big time save over previous records since those got 566 doors. He got a basically perfect Kamek, which netted him a 554. But how is that possible? Well, there was one more thing that could happen, but very unlikely. You randomly fly or jump and Kamek just happens to spawn where you go, and that's exactly what Cats did for one of the 3 Kamek hits, and he got the absolute near perfect run. And that's where the record stands today.